pest?
The eggs hatch in the spring, typically sometime in April or May, depending on how far north you are. When they first hatch out of an egg, they're just tiny little things. You can see them with your naked eye, but they're tiny. And if you look at them closely with a microscope, you see that they're mostly little tiny bodies with these real long hairs. And those hairs help them blow in the wind. What they want to do is climb up to the tallest thing they can find, and then they let off a strand of silk and they wait to, we call it ballooning, they wait to be blown somewhere. They land on something else. If it's good to feed on, they'll start eating. If not, they go through this ballooning process again. They will start eating leaves just as soon as they can. They just love oaks, but there are a number of other species that they feed on and do very well on. Aspen, I would put at the top of that list. Willow, basswood or linden, things like apples and crab apples, paper birch, they do very well on those species. During the last stage, about that last 7 to 10 days, that's when it eats 75% of all the foliage that it's going to eat. We figure when there's an outbreak of gypsy moths in an oak-dominated forest, you have about 1.2 million caterpillars per acre. And you figure every one of those caterpillars is capable of eating an area of oak leaves that's about 3 feet by 3 feet in size, about 9 square feet in size. And so you have a lot of defoliation going on, and of course they're feeding, so something's coming out the other end. We call it frass. That's the little insect fecal pellets, and it literally sounds like it's raining. It's not uncommon if you have, for example, young white pines or young blue spruce trees growing underneath some oak trees, that once they've stripped all the leaves off the oak, they drop down and they'll strip all the needles off the pine. Pines and spruces don't tolerate that defoliation. They can't produce a second set of buds, and in those cases, those trees die. At that point, they pupate, they spin a cocoon, and they're in that stage. That's where they do the metamorphosis thing, where they go from a caterpillar, all the cells break down and reform, and they come out as a moth. And then the egg masses are out there for the rest of the summer, all through the winter, until they hatch the next spring.
And there are two gypsy moth specific treatments that only affect gypsy moth. One is the naturally occurring virus, and we can grow this in culture and put it into a liquid pesticide that is used. And then the final one, which is what we use so much of in STS, is mating disruption. And that's just putting the pheromone, the insect pheromone, in these little controlled release dispensers that are then scattered by aircraft across these populations. And it prevents the males from being able to find the females, so there's no mating, and that's how the population is controlled.
You know, I think people, they also need to understand how to keep trees healthy, and the fact that trees need some water. Not necessarily fertilizer, but they need some water. Don't wound the tree. Don't bang it with the lawnmower or hit it with the weed whip. You know, there's things that people can do to get through these gypsy moth outbreaks. And the more they know about it, the better they cope with it.